It was dark, and we were cold and hungry. We ran from haystack to haystack, always careful and quiet, never to get caught. This was the story my grandmother used to tell me about how she escaped from the former Soviet Union. As a boy, I would sit next to her and listen to the story of her journey from danger to safety. As I grew up and I pieced the story together, I often wondered a few things. How many haystacks? How long did it take? How big were the haystacks? What is a haystack? But as the years passed on, I realized the details of the journey might be murky, but my grandmother wasn't just passing down our story from bondage to freedom. Those haystacks opened my eyes and opened my heart to the timeless struggle for safety and hope. A struggle that is our story, our heritage, and our soul. From Abraham and Sarah, Hagar and Ishmael, and Moses and Miriam, we are descendants of countless generations who journeyed into the unknown, seeking a brighter tomorrow. As I pray in this holy space today, I am keenly aware of those blessings that I have received from those brave and cold, dark journeys from those times of the haystacks. And although we have come this far, the journey is not yet complete. We have yet to reach that land of promise and potential. For as long as there are those who still journey for freedom, then the souls of the compassionate ones continue to journey with them. We sit here together today, we are hungry, we're tired, and we beat our chests and we ask God to not only awaken our slumbering hearts, but to break our hearts wide open. For on this journey of freedom, the closed heart sees pain and hopelessness and continues walking. But that broken open heart, it stops. It carries the burden. It responds with compassion. We ask God today to break open our hearts because we know that in this past year, too many hearts have been hardened. We gather here together today and we acknowledge that we have missed the mark. There are times that we have fallen short. Our capacity to love and care is limitless, and yet we admit that there were times that we carried less. We beat open our hearts and we promise not only to right the wrongs of this past year, but to affix a banner of love and compassion on every doorpost and every gate on this long road to freedom that we are still journeying. God opens for us the gates of this Yom Kippur with trust in our great capacity to care. Will we break God's trust in this new year? Or will we continue that journey that started for us ages ago? And will we enter into this new year responding with love and compassion with these broken, open hearts? And respond. Respond we must. Too many cries go ignored because far too often we only allow our ears to hear those cries. But in this coming year, we must break open our hearts and let our heart listen. For it's the heart that can hear and truly respond. It's the heart that can hear that piercing cry that is so deep from that soul. There is a story from the book of Genesis of how our matriarch Sarah forced Abraham to expel Hagar and her baby Ishmael from the community. There in the wilderness, alone, cold, hungry, they find themselves lost and without hope. Hagar gives up. She leaves baby Ishmael behind a bush to die. Hagar walks away and she cries out in pain, in grief, in distress. And after Hagar's cry, our text says that God responds because he heard the cry of baby Ishmael. He heard the cry of baby Ishmael. But nowhere in our text does it say that Ishmael cries out. Hagar cries out, but God responds. Sometimes there is a cry that is so painful, so dark, so deep, that it begs of us to go beyond the ear and listen to that silence from the heart. It was that silent cry of Ishmael that was so deep and so scared that it caused God to draw near. God responds to Ishmael's cry, and in the text it says that God came to Ishmael ba'ashar husham. These Hebrew words, ba'ashar husham, for he was there. God hears that silent cry, and God comes to Ishmael. No conditions for the help. God does not wait for Ishmael to come to him. God hears that silent cry with compassion and draws near. Ba'ashar husham, he met Ishmael where he was. Today we are asked to find an ounce inside and be like God. We are asked to break open our hearts to the cries of the little ones who are Ba'ashar husham, who are there, waiting for us and our broken open hearts with compassion to draw near. In silence, they cry out to us, weeping and praying for a moment of salvation, waiting for our broken open hearts to hear and respond, Ba'ashar husham, simply where they are. As the horrors of history come back to haunt humanity, we ask ourselves, will we be the defenders of hope and respond to that lonely child, Ba'ashar husham, or will we close our hearts and turn away? During the pain of this past summer, we saw children being taken from the arms of their parents, and we couldn't help see but the souls of our ancestors in those who came to this border. Their tired eyes, broken and shattered dreams. They left everything for a brighter tomorrow and carried in their arms that one true treasure in life, a child. Many in this community responded with open hearts. We made calls. We took to the streets. We raised our voices. We saw those children, Ba'ashar husham. We heard their cry deep in our souls and our hearts, and we drew near. Today, on this Yom Kippur, as children still sit isolated and separated from families, as we continue to work for their return, we offer these words to our own children who this summer witnessed the stories, who saw our activism, who asked the question, could this happen to us? So this morning I offer these words to my children and to all of the children of the next generation. Dear Noah and Zev, as you enjoy your time under the sun, I have to tell you that something went wrong. Not with you, not with our love for you, but with this world in which we live. I need to remind you that you were brought into this world on a blessing. In your life, you have been surrounded by love and by comfort. You have the blessing of food on the table, clothes on your back, and shelter over your head. But I need to remind you that we live in a world in which those blessings are not universal. There are people that are born into danger, violence, and starvation. They have little choice but to flee the home in which they knew and journey into the dark and cold unknown. It's a journey that is familiar to our family. It's a journey that is familiar to the family of the journey of the people of Israel. It's a journey that took us from land to land and across that dark and cold ocean. You see, there is a darkness in this world, a darkness that is thick, a darkness that has lurked on this earth since the time of Moses and the plagues. Remember when we sat around the Passover table, we talked about the plague of darkness from ages ago? Well, that plague never went away. Yes, it shrunk, but it remained on this earth. And throughout history, that plague of darkness tends to creep into the hearts of people, and pain is caused. It's a darkness that your ancestors experienced. It forced them to hide from haystack to haystack. It hurled them into the sea and find safety and shelter in this new land. We never imagined that darkness would come to these borders, but we were naive. The darkness has spread. It found a crack and it came in, and it once again has hardened the heart. This summer has exposed you to stories and pictures and sounds of darkness. Darkness that has destroyed hope. Darkness that took children from their parents. Darkness that ignored the pain of the other. You see, we always taught you that love is a universal language and that one need not speak to show true feelings. We hoped that the look on those parents' faces at the border would be enough. We hoped that the pure souls of children who were ba'ashar husham, who were simply there, would be enough. But again, we were wrong. But if there is one thing that we have learned from our history, it's that moments of darkness never last. So we are a people of 7. 7 days of creation, 7 matriarchs and patriarchs. So I want to offer you 7 ways in which we get through this darkness and enter into the light. First, always remember that you are loved beyond words, and the love of a parent to a child and the love that this community offers will get us through these difficult times. 2, the darkness of a few will never weaken the light and love of the masses. 3, although we walk in a time of cracks and shatter, please know that we still have hope in humanity's repair. We know that goodness is our future. Love is always our inheritance. 4, with this crack in the hearts of a few, know that for us, darkness will never find its way in, because the light that you give is the greatest defense to darkness. 5, we might not be physically the strongest people that you know, but with our hands, we as a community will tear apart God's creation to reunite a child with his family. And 6, throughout every holiday, we remind you that we are a people of memory. And if there is one thing that we hold on to, it's this: our spirit has never been broken. Our hearts will never be hardened, and our love will never be diminished. And finally, 7, the wickedness of man does not endure, but the compassion of a people is eternal. I hope and I pray and I know that the people of good souls in this world will continue to come together and repair the cracks in our time. Today, Yom Kippur, it's hard. We are made aware of the shattered vessels of hope, but we are also empowered to look within and find strength to repair those vessels. Today is not just fasting and exhaustion. Today is not just remembering and recollection, but it's the belief that we can reach beyond our limits and in the face of pain, terror, and hatred, still strive to enter a new year with hope in humanity, with love in our hearts, and with the willingness to respond. Sitting here today from this beautiful vantage point, looking out at this community, we create a holy space, and we create a beautiful tapestry of Jews and non-Jews, members and affiliates, believers and seekers, people who share a common faith in the good of humanity, people who are willing to respond ba'ashar husham to the child that is there. I was once told a story of the famous civil rights activist Andrew Young. It was the late 1970s, and he was in Alabama for a benefit. It was a black tie event, and Andrew Young arrived in overalls with a tuxedo jacket and bow tie. When asked about his unique style, he responded, "I wear this tonight in the heart of Alabama as a reminder of where I am and where I came from." This morning, in my shirt and tie, but with this talit, I am reminded of where I am. I am reminded of where we came from, and we are reminded of that which we carry on our shoulders. With these 4 corners, we stretch throughout the earth, always carrying with us hope. Because with this corner, I am reminded that I come from a people who answer the word of God, respond to a child ba'ashar husham, where he or she truly is. And with this corner, I am reminded that I come from the generation of Moses who fled terror in search of hope and freedom. And with this corner, I am reminded that I come from a people who witnessed a burnt and destroyed temple, and in the aftermath of that destruction, found enough light and hope to rebuild. And with this corner, I am reminded that I come from haystacks that stretch to freedom, sneaking and hiding to find a better tomorrow. From enslavement and expulsion, we have always journeyed in this world, always carrying with us a heart of compassion that would never be tarnished. May the journey of the hopeful be acknowledged by all who hear their pain, and as they respond, and as we respond in the dark of the night, Ba'ashar Husham, my broken, open heart hears you. Let me draw near to you. Let us walk towards freedom together in this new year.